Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks very much for joining us today. I want to begin by acknowledging, as we always do, that we're on Treaty 1 in Dakota Nation's territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis, Nation. I want to welcome Premier Stephenson to Winnipeg City Hall. This is a first in my time in office, having a sitting premier visit City Hall, and I want to thank you for joining us here. This is an exciting day. We've had collaborative dialogue in recent weeks. Today backs up the sentiment and tone of that dialogue with delivering results for the residents that we both serve, and it's a needed change in tone that's backed up with outcomes. And so it gives me great pleasure to turn the podium over to Premier Stephenson. If you can just give me a minute to get my mask back on. These press conferences take a little while. Okay, welcome.
You know what, I'm gonna do a little bit of this. Take the time to get this right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Just delighted to be here. Thank you, Mayor Bowman, for having me here to City Hall today. Just delighted to be here with you all. It was a pleasure to have you, of course, join us at the Manitoba Legislature yesterday for what I think is a historic day in our province as we unveiled our vision and our agenda, which focuses on working together with all Manitobans to build a stronger, healthier, and more inclusive future for us all. I think it goes without saying that it has been a long time since a premier has joined you on your home turf, Mr. Mayor. And let me begin by saying it's an honor to be here this afternoon as we share some great news that will benefit the City of Winnipeg and all Manitobans. As noted in yesterday's speech from the throne, our government is keen to collaborate with all levels of government to advance key infrastructure projects that will improve the quality of life, create jobs, and build a cleaner, greener Manitoba. Today, it gives me great pleasure to announce that our governments are moving forward together to advance two projects that will benefit the City of Winnipeg and all Manitobans. We have agreed to advance an application for Phase 2 of the North End Water Pollution Control Centre and the Winnipeg Master Transit Plan as part of the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program. The North End Sewage Treatment Plant is Winnipeg's oldest and largest sewage treatment plant, processing 70% of the city's wastewater. The Winnipeg Transit Master Plan presents a vision for transit service and infrastructure in Winnipeg for the next 25 years. We are pleased to move forward with Mayor Bowman and the City of Winnipeg on these key projects that support their growing infrastructure needs and help to build a modern, clean capital city. As we look forward to a post-pandemic Manitoba, we need to be progressing together. Manitobans rightly expect the leaders of the province and the largest community to stand together to solve problems and build a place for all of us to be proud of. Again, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here with you at City Hall, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much, Premier Stephenson, and it really is, it's incredibly heartwarming to be standing together with you to advance these projects. Winnipeg is a city that's growing. When I first ran for office, and still my vision continues to be to grow this city to 1 million people strong. And so when I ran in 2014, I talked about the need to modernize our public transportation system from one that was designed by our grandparents for one that is designed for us and for our kids. Also, the need to invest in critical infrastructure like the North End Sewage Treatment Plant. For years, I've been working with our public service, leading council, and advocating to other levels of government for these two critical infrastructure investments, both public transportation as well as sewage treatment, something that is needed to continue to support economic development and growth in Winnipeg and the capital region. When all levels of government commit, we will deliver more than $1 billion to build Winnipeg for the future. And so today's announcement is a very positive step to achieving those results for Winnipeg and for Manitoba. I'm very pleased to see these two outstanding ISIP requests finally move forward as submitted by Council. And I just want to thank the Premier. I think it's been about 2 weeks that she's been in office. And to have these two critical infrastructure projects move forward in such a short period of time is a credit to her and her leadership, as well as making good on the tone and sentiment of our discussions as well as her public statements. And so delivering results in this manner today is something that I think will benefit Winnipeggers now and in the future, but it'll also benefit Manitobans now and in the future. While the federal government has yet to review this application, I'd like to acknowledge the ISIP program they created does give municipalities like the City of Winnipeg the opportunity to plan for critical infrastructure like we're talking about today. So I want to say thank you to the Premier and the provincial government. And with that, we can turn things over to members of the media. We're both available to answer questions. And we do have officials joining us remotely. Once we depart, they can be available if you have more technical questions that they may be able to answer for you.
My first one's for Premier Stephenson. What is the outcome of the private operations and maintenance dispute then? Because that's what was holding this up. The province really wanted private operations and maintenance. Is that going to happen? Was that part of this agreement, or have you backed away from that?
I can start. I mean, yeah, right now, today's announcement is really about advancing the ISIP requests that have been made. There's obviously going to be ongoing dialogue with now the federal government regarding these projects, but at this stage, what's really important is that the projects, both the transit as well as the North End Sewage Treatment Plant that you're asking about, Joyanne, is advanced. There had been some delay in having that advanced, and so today obviously is a very positive step to advance it as was submitted by Council.
So we haven't dealt with that issue? That's still a sticking point potentially?
Well, the next step that we were asking for was to, and you'll know this is something that's being considered at Council tomorrow. There is the P3 market sounding that was requested by the province, and we've undertaken that. That's being sent to Council tomorrow to receive as information, but there was a motion made at Executive Policy Committee to just immediately call on the province to submit the plan for consideration by the federal government as submitted by Council. And so today's announcement will do that. It's going to make for less fireworks on the floor of Council tomorrow, which is a good thing in politics, that we were actually being able to demonstrate that we can work together to advance it.
How do we get over that issue, though? The whole report you're talking about is about how this is the sticking point and these two sides haven't come to an agreement.
Well, that report was, in furtherance of Council or Executive Policy Committee, I should say, direction to do a market sounding on P3. And so obviously the plans at this stage are design, bid, build, but that market sounding has been conducted. That administrative report now is a matter of public record that all levels of government will have access to. And so I imagine there will be continued dialogue on that going forward. But before we can even have that dialogue in a more meaningful way with our federal partners, the application had to move forward. And so that's why this is really important to have it go to Ottawa, so at least it's in the queue within the timelines that we've seen in previous mandate letter of the federal government.
We're now going to move.
Take a turn. I did want to ask you that because that's where I was starting from too. Is the province willing to back off on the demand to have the private operations and maintenance then?
Yeah, I think those discussions are still ongoing, obviously, but I think what this is sending a clear message today that that we're willing to work together on these issues. We want to make sure that that we move forward together and send a signal to the federal government that these issues are of great importance, not just to the city of Winnipeg, but to all Manitobans. And so certainly some of these issues will, we've had discussions on them. We'll continue to have those discussions, but we don't believe that there's anything there that will prevent us from moving these projects forward. And so that's what we're doing today.
We're now going to move to the reporters on remote. So I'm going to move to Ian at CBC.
Yes, Premier Stephenson, the city has wanted the province to jump on board with the restoring of sort of that 50-50 transit funding agreement that lapsed under your predecessor. Would the province entertain a return to that agreement?
So for today, this is what we're agreeing to today, and I know there's going to be other questions, other issues that you want to bring forward to us, and that's important. But today we're sending a signal that we are changing a page. We are working together on some of these issues that are so important for Manitobans and for Winnipeggers as well. And so, today is about these two projects. And I think we'll keep it at that. We'll deal with those other issues down the road.
I can maybe just add to that as well.
That covers it for me, thanks.
Yeah, I can just add to that because obviously public transit and the positions of governments are a matter of public record. And to the Premier's point, this ISIP request that was after the transit master plan was completed and approved by council earlier this year. When all governments are in, it will represent about $500 million to move transit to a much more modernized fleet towards zero emissions and really changing transit. It's the first step, of course, but it's a significant investment in transit. And so, as the Premier's mentioned, there are a number of other files that we'll be dealing with over the coming months, but definitely for transit riders, this is a very positive signal that we have a provincial government that is engaged and is supporting our request. And we'll have continued dialogue with our federal partners who we've had good, positive, collaborative discussions about transit in recent years.
Jeff from CTV.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can, Jeff. How you doing?
Okay, good. How are you?
Good.
And this is for both of you. How confident are you that the federal government is going to sign off on this and blow the money?
Maybe I'll just start because I'm at the podium. I'll just say the discussions that we've had, that I've had with numerous federal officials at the highest levels have been very supportive of modernizing and moving to zero emissions in particular, but just modernizing public transportation. The ISIP program was and is a federal program with specific dollars tied to ridership. And so I think their commitment on public transit is very well known. And that's one of the reasons why we're here today is we're trying to access those dollars and bring them into Manitoba so that we can liberate those federal dollars. And so we'll obviously have discussions with the federal government now that the applications will move forward on both of these projects. But I think, public transit is one of those ways that we help combat climate change, a key priority of the Prime Minister and the federal government. And so I expect those discussions will continue to be very collaborative with the federal government.
Thanks, Jeff. Just to add to it quickly, and I think that's the important. That's why it's so important that we work together, and that's really why I'm here today with Mayor Bowman to ensure that we are advancing these projects together. It sends a signal, I think, to Ottawa that we're working together, which is very important. Obviously, we can't control what direction they may go, but I think by working together, there's more a likelihood to advance these projects, which are very important, not just to Winnipeggers, but to Manitobans.
Premier Stephenson, if you could just stay there. Your predecessor, I tried for I think 4 or 5 years to get his thoughts on bus rapid transit, whether or not he supports it. Obviously, you're supporting a large chunk of change here today. Do you believe in and do you support bus rapid transit? Because it's something the gentleman beside you has campaigned on and believes in.
Yeah, well, certainly what we want to do is move forward to make sure that those buses that do come forward, we want to look at electric buses. We want cleaner, greener, buses out there in the fleet. We recognize that there's going to be, a transition phase here, and the mayor and I have spoken about this, that some of the existing fleet probably needs to be replaced right now. But what we would love to do is to ensure that that we move forward with as many electric buses as we can as a part of this, because that will be part of our cleaner, greener Manitoba that I think we all want to see.
I can maybe just add to the rapid transit question. So, Jeff, one of the things, obviously in 2014, big debate during my first municipal campaign, after about 10 years of debate about 10 blocks of half a rapid transit line, I campaigned to finish the line and also modernize the overarching network. And so we've now completed, thanks to provincial and federal support, the second phase of the rapid transit with modernized active transportation amenities included, which are spectacular. But part of the the transit master plan includes high-frequency networks throughout the city. And so I think for viewers, to take a look at that plan, it's a matter of public record. It's on winnipeg.ca. Really what this master plan does is it realizes people take transit all over the city. They want to get from point A to point B in a lot more efficient way, a safe, reliable transit network. This will move us in that direction in a very significant and real way. And so the high-frequency network, the estimated times are right part of the plan, so people can go and they can look and they can see, okay, if I live in the Maples or my Transcona, how does this impact me? It's not just in one particular end of the city. It really is the overarching modernization of the network with those high-frequency networks as those anchors to get people around as quickly as possible. And the reason it's important is, we've grown tens of thousands of people since that initial debate. And, we have fixed a lot of roads in Winnipeg in recent years. I think future campaigns are going to be more about gridlock than they are about potholes like previous campaigns, because we've modernized the roads, but also we've got a lot more people choosing to call Winnipeg home. And as a result, public transit is going to become increasingly important to move people and goods throughout our city and our economy efficiently.
Josh from the Winnipeg Sun. Josh, you're still currently muted.
My apologies. Good afternoon, Mayor and Premier. What is going to be the final cost breakdown on these two projects when it does come down to that split on funding between the three levels of government? Where did we land? What's being actually applied for in these two applications?
You know what? Those numbers are available online. We can get them to you immediately afterwards. But the combined total is just over $1 billion of government support for both the upgrades to phase 2 of the North End Sewage Treatment Plant and the initial phase of the implementation of the Transit Master Plan. It's 1.091 to be exact. That's the combined total. But we can get you the breakdowns in terms of, how much is municipal, how much is provincial, federal. I think that's your question.
Yeah, that'd be appreciated. Thank you. My second question is for the Premier. when we look at this funding, we look at a different tone that you're taking with the Prime Minister when it comes to the climate plan, the federal climate plan. Are we looking at a potential new Manitoba Green Plan that incorporates some of these ideas as opposed to what was pushed under Pallister? Are we looking at a different approach to dealing with climate change in Manitoba?
Look, I think there's been some great work that has been done and put into our program, which I think would have been yielded better results than perhaps the federal carbon plan. But I think what we want to do is move forward, and what this is about today is us being able to move forward with the city of Winnipeg on two incredibly important projects for not just for the city but for the province, and obviously as part of that. We want to ensure that we are looking at cleaner, greener projects, and that's why we are, looking at obviously electric buses. Those, the electrification of transportation is obviously a significant issue. I know that there has been a recent report that has been done at the city, or sorry, at the province about the electrification of transportation, and I think this is part of what we need to modernize our transportation system. So I think this is all a part of that.
Rosanna from Global News.
Hi, this is my first question is for Mayor Bowman. I wanted to know, I know that you addressed this a little bit earlier, but do you feel the city had to compromise anything on its wish list for these files in reaching this point today?
Well, I guess the short answer is no. I mean, council's request has been a matter of public record, and the Premier's indicating today that she's prepared to forward them in pretty short order after assuming office. And so, obviously, I think everybody that cares about the health of our rivers and lakes would have liked to have seen much of this dealt with by previous administrations, both here at the city and at the provincial level, of different political stripes. The North End Sewage Treatment Plant has been one of those projects that I heard about long before I was elected Winnipeg's 43rd mayor. Previous mayors and council, in my view, didn't move as quick as I would have liked, and I'm sure others would like, themselves included. It's a big, difficult file. This is a massive project. It's one of the largest infrastructure projects in Manitoba history, and certainly in the city's history. And it's of critical importance going forward. Same with transit. I mean, transit has been a very politically charged, certainly rapid transit has historically. Jeff's question's kind of evidence of that. Sorry to pick on you, Jeff. But we were able to come together as a council to build a plan that was supported by council. And so, I'm just pleased that they're moving forward, and we can finally now have those discussions with the federal government, hopefully bring in what will be a combined total of over $1 billion to build Winnipeg for the future.
Thank you. And just a quick follow-up, when are you expected to hear back about the application at the federal level?
Well, first we need to finish the press conference, and I think the Premier will need to sign the letter to send it to Ottawa, and so I think we'll probably give him at least a day to get that out the door. These are matters. These two infrastructure projects are ones that there's been ongoing dialogue with the federal government, and so we'll obviously have that discussion in due course with the federal government now. And I think, as the Premier's noted, what's important is to be able to demonstrate in not just words but also action that we're working together, and we're both working to support two critical infrastructure investments in Winnipeg and in Manitoba.
We'll now go back to Joyanne in the media room.
Yeah, another one for the Premier. Why did it take so long for the province to sign off on this?
So I think a couple of things, Joyanne. I think, obviously there's a lot of work that goes into, the background and negotiations, all these sort of things that take place and it's taken some time to get to where we are. But I think it's also time to move forward on these. And these are two in particular issues that I have been hearing about even when I was out during my leadership campaign. particularly the North End wastewater treatment facility. I've been hearing about this for decades. I know I've been around for a couple of decades now, being elected, and it's certainly been around for a very long time, this issue. I think Manitobans, Winnipeggers want to see this move forward, and I think, so I'm just happy that it is moving forward finally now.
I know you didn't get a clear answer on it earlier, so I'm going to try again.
Yeah.
How do you do that if there's no agreement on which part should be profited on? How do they even put out requests for proposals if we haven't agreed on that?
Well, I think, part of certainly my new approach to things is obviously to empower ministers to do their jobs. And I think, in this case, we're looking at the city of Winnipeg. This is a city of Winnipeg project, and we'll look to them to manage that project. I think, certainly we want to be a partner in this, and we are moving forward and asking this because it's through ISIP funds, which the partnership is obviously between the feds and the province. But this is something that has a significant impact on the city, and so I think it's empowering the city to manage it.
So the city does get to decide that then?
The city will, yeah. Yeah,
So they can put out the design bid finance if they
Yes.
want to?
yeah.
Thank
Okay, we will go back to the Zoom reporters, back to Ian from CBC.
I'm good, thank you.
Jeff from CTV.
Just lastly then, you're moving files along pretty fast, Premier Stephenson. Can we expect to hear a resolution to the ambulance contract anytime soon?
So I thought that might come up today. Let's do one project at a time, Jeff. Stay tuned. I know the mayor and I still have a number of other files, but I think today is a great day both for the city of Winnipeg and for the province of Manitoba, that we're working together to move some projects along. And I'm just really excited and honored to be here today with the mayor on these very important projects.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Josh from the Winnipeg Sun.
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, and last, Rosanna from Global. My apologies, it appears Rosanna has left. That would be the conclusion of the press conference.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.